Well, we did it. We did it. We did it. We're live again. It's Thursday. It's Pop Off Thursday. I think most of you understand what Pop Off Thursday is now. And I'll probably pop off. I pretty much pop off every time I go live. It seems like the ratings go up when I pop off. So I got on a little late this morning. I gave us a 15-minute running start. And then as I went to go live, Hurricane Nicole reared her ugly head on me this morning and disconnected, and we had a blip. So I'm telling you, we're going live no matter what. No hurricane is going to keep Wired Differently Successionaires Pop Off Thursday from happening. So I'm looking out at the storm right now. I went live in my Successionaire page at roughly 7 o'clock this morning. Successionaire page. Join my Successionaire page. We spend about 7 minutes every morning, and we deal with some of the same topics that we deal with on this longer show, but we deal it more intimately, right? We talked. I know the people on there. I'm more specific, and I even call them out and talk to them. And it's a fun thing, the Successionaire page. Successionaires, by the way, are people that are successful, not necessarily grading themselves on how much money they have, but successionaires is a word that Wired Differently owns. And successionaire is basically this: a successionaire aspires to be a successionaire because they execute a plan that they have hatched, right? And then once they continue to learn how to execute plans over and over and over again, they aspire to be successionaires. I think most successionaires don't necessarily have to be millionaires, but if their goal is to be a millionaire, they will attain it. And that's why, yes, I'm Todd Saylor, and I'm on my pursuit to be America's coach. It's on my pursuit to be your coach, to help you understand how to lift your personal life, how to lift your spiritual life, and as importantly as anything, how to make more money while you do it. And so I think it's important that we yoke those. But this morning, let's talk about ToddSaylor.com real quick. ToddSaylor.com. Click on ToddSaylor.com and click inquire, and I'll give you a call. My assistant will give you a call, and we'll have a free time together. But let's get on topic this morning. We'll have time to give me more promos later. I want to talk to you about Pop Off Thursday, Leadership Today. Leadership Today. And I put out there the trigger, if you will. How did President Joe Biden lead last night after he had the conversation with the news reporters? Now, I know that a lot of you are conditioned for me to lean right, and I will ultimately probably lean right by the end of this Pop Off Thursday and leadership assessment of President Joe Biden. But I thought, we've had this topic, right? And so we started off on Monday, and we were going to get real America, and I've aspired to take you and push you in a real direction, and we've done that. Monday, we talked about getting real in your relationships, how important it is to become successful in your relationships, successionaire-esque on your relationships. I challenge you to get a plan. Who in your life can you be lifting up? Who can you be empowering? Get a plan. Pick that person up. 2 was E. Who are you equipping in your life? Create a plan. Who are you going to equip in your life, right? To become better in your own work life or your own goals and raising people. And 3rd yesterday was attitude. We had a big conversation about attitude yesterday. Attitude. What's your attitude, right? We realized that both people were basically pissed off yesterday after the election. The right was upset because they didn't win by enough. The left was kind of upset because it looks like they're going to lose the House and they're not going to really gain any momentum in the Senate. And so both people were upset. And we surmised that maybe that was the best place for America to be for a while. Both people not happy with where they're at. And maybe we could find some common grounds in our own misery, maybe. But attitude is really that piece we talked about yesterday that lifts us up when things aren't well. We don't need attitude necessarily when we just won the lottery, like some, I'm sure, a nice man won $1 billion 2 days ago. His attitude is etched in stone, man. If he just could not spend it in the wrong places. This guy doesn't have to have an attitude. Much of because attitude is really deliverable in crisis situations. Now, tomorrow we're going to go over all this again and we're going to have some fun with it. But today I want to talk about the L in Let's Get Real America, and that is leadership. Leadership, leadership, leadership. And leadership is this conversation we're going to cross with President Biden. We're going to cross my conversation, and I'm going to assess President Biden on his talk yesterday. I am going to coach President Biden. If President Biden was my client, I would be coaching him on leadership. And so I'm going to do it in the open with you today. I'm going to coach President Biden. I hope he's there's a part of me that's hoping he's not listening, because I'm going to tell him exactly what he's doing well and what he's doing wrong. I'm that brave. I am that confident in my leadership ability that I could get President Biden reelected. Now, you say, Todd, why would you want President Biden? I'm not saying I want him reelected. I'm saying I could get him reelected if he listened to me. On the flip side, if you're a Trumper out there, I could get President Trump elected if he would just listen to me. Now, listen, here's what I'm saying. I'm not trying to be arrogant. I'm trying to have fun. I'm trying to help you understand that, America thinks differently, right? We're all wired differently. And it's the job of the leader of the free world to align those different people. It's his job to align the wired differently people. And that's what good leaders do, right? They have a task, they have a target, and they go for it. But they cannot attain their goal if they don't have leadership and they're not following my basic principles that I'm laying out here for you. 1, relationships. You need relationships. President Joe Biden, you need relationships. I know you have some relationships, but they're all like drinking the same damn Kool-Aid. They're right, like they're all brainwashed in one direction, and they're not seeing it for the way they need to see it for the whole country. And I get that. Like, you tell me something I don't know, Todd. Well, I'm going to tell you something I don't know. You don't know. But I think relationships is what he's working on. I think equipping is something he's weak on. I think attitude is something he's good on. And leadership is something that we're going to talk about right now. Listen, so let's talk about President Biden right now. He came on the television. He came on the stream. He came on the Insta. He came on the Facebook. He came on the LinkedIn. He came on the Twitter. He was everywhere yesterday because as of the day before the election result, consequent day, he had never said he was going to come out and talk to anybody. This is the first thing I want to tell you about leadership. Because leadership is something that has to happen all the time. Leadership is something, success in leadership is a condition, not a position. You have to constantly be leading. You have to be constantly thinking about what every move you're making and who it's influencing and how it's influencing them. Now, this is not, I'm just going to tell you right now, this is not going to be a bash on Biden. It really isn't. I'm telling you right now, some of you are probably going to be disappointed with parts of what I'm going to say. But let's just dissect what happened yesterday. Leadership. Leadership is something that the entire world rises and falls on. Listen, this is the thing I want you to, if you're going to write anything down today, I want you to write down leadership. Everything in the world rises and falls with leadership. Everything. I've given a version of this speech. I just gave one in Indianapolis to almost 100 people at a trades union. It's beautiful. Great people. Just awesome. ABC, Kentucky, Indiana Trades Contractors Association, not a union, association. And I close with leadership because the R-E-A-L in real ends with a L, and that is leadership. And I close with this because I want to start with this morning, that leadership, everything in the world rises and falls with leadership. And John Maxwell, an amazing man, and I would suggest anybody read anything he has to write. He's a masterful leader. He's a masterful teacher in leadership. And I got the luxury to go at a private church venue and listen to him speak. And he didn't speak but 20 minutes, but it was amazing, right? But he ended up with leadership. And he said, listen, I want you all. And he looked over the church congregation. He looked at everybody out there in the church. He says, I want to close with leadership. And I want you to understand that everything in the world that you know of, that you can think of, rises and falls with leadership. And, there's a couple hundred of us in there. Amazing. It was fun. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, wow, everything. That's massive. I'm writing things down. I'm thinking through my life and how I could ever use this in my life. And one brave soul, way in the back. One brave soul was channeling with my thought process of, man, what is everything? And he says, and John reads this out and he says, what can I help you with something? And he says, Mr. Maxwell, I would like to understand what everything is. And I'm like, man, all right. And he asked the question. And John looked at him. John, he's, I think he's pushing 70 something. Not a small man, just a very measured man, very, I don't want to say malleable, but he's measured and he is, he's movable. He's someone that you could talk to and make him think, and then he would help you think the way he really thought because he listened to you think, right? Leadership. And he looked at that guy and he said, listen, took a sip of water. Listen, leadership, everything in the world, everything rises and falls with leadership. And so what that means is the moon rises and goes around the earth with leadership. What that means is the sun rises and sets with leadership. What it means is you get up in the morning with leadership. What it means is that you run your company with leadership. You decide to lead yourself with leadership. Everything in this world is a byproduct of leadership. Like there's nothing that you can touch, and there's nothing that anybody can think about, do, or have happen to them that hasn't been influenced by some sort of leadership. I mean, Pop Off Thursday is about leadership. I want you to understand, where is leadership going to fall in your life? Where are you going to recognize how important that everything that happens to you or your family is directly involved with your leadership in some stature, some way, somehow, some place. Thank you, John Maxwell. Joe Biden came on the news, and I think he only planned on talking a short period. But I would tell you, he had a interesting stride to himself. He didn't stutter much at all. He didn't have he had a certain calm about him, right? And so this is where I'm literally gonna annoy some Republicans because, and he did a good job yesterday. I mean, he really did a good job on his post-election speech from a leadership perspective. Now, I'm going to talk to you about what he did well in his leadership position yesterday. And I made some notes. I'm going to gander over here at my whiteboard. I have a massive whiteboard. I have like 2 whiteboards in my studio. And today I want you to know that I've got the flames going behind me. And if you pay attention a little bit, see, I got blue flames going for the Dems. And then all of a sudden, here they come. Here comes the purple wave. Yikes. And then now, boom, yeah, we got the reds for the Republicans. And we're going to be moving the flames around today. I got the flames for America. I act like I planned it. I kind of did. I could change it if I want, but I'm going to leave it that way. So President Biden comes out, and I want you to tell you, he was cool, man. He was confident. He had his hair just right. He had his favorite outfit on. He was in his own place. He was confident in the fact that they didn't lose as bad as they thought they would lose. I mean, he found some he found some pieces in the good. He found his attitude in this time of, I wouldn't call it a crisis, but a time of law. I mean, literally, they're losing. They're going to lose the House. They may hold the Senate, but it's definitely not a win. But the first thing he did was he took a good look at his own attitude, and he found the good in the situation. And the good in the situation is that he didn't lose the Congress as bad as anybody else had ever lost the Congress in a midterm after their election. So as a Republican, I look at that and I'm like, okay, excuses, excuses, excuses. But as a coach, I'm telling this man, that's a great place to go. That's a great place to find your ground, because that is a win. You know, it's not a win in the overall. And I'll take the Republican side and I'll say, listen, you still lost. It was overtime and you lost by 1 point on a bad call by a referee. I don't know, the worst case scenario to lose in a football game. It's just still a loss, right? And so the Republican side of me is like, okay, say what you want, but it's clearly apparent that we're going to win the House, and that's going to get Pelosi out, and that's going to drive the agenda of the whole country. Some people don't even realize that without the House, no legislation can get introduced. Nothing gets passed. And certainly without a Senate that's going to agree, nothing's even going to make it to the president, which he probably would veto. But the bottom line is, let's talk about his leadership. Leadership, everything rises and falls with your leadership. Everything rises and falls with somebody's leadership. And the fact is, you can only control your own leadership. So come on, somebody, get out there and vote, right? And that's what we did, and that's what we're talking. So President Biden comes out and he grabs something right away. He grabs something, a win for him and his party and his message. And it was, we didn't lose as bad as anyone else had ever lost in midterms. Good coaching. Whoever coached him, good coaching, good place. But the next piece I really want to commend him on is that he didn't call anybody any names. And I really think if he did go mega, he only did it once, which it drives me nuts, obviously, when he says that, and he irritates the right. But I really felt like he did not, from a leadership perspective, push hard on the bad Republicans. He would call them the mega megas, or Hillary called us the deplorables. She was more broad in it. She was like, anybody in the right is a deplorable, right? Biden's at least become a little smarter and says it's only the mega maggots that are deplorable, which he didn't do yesterday. I felt like he stayed away from the name calling. And his whole piece was turn the temperature down. Turn the temperature down. And he got me on that. He got me on that. I don't like him. I don't want him to be president. And this is why I'm an important person to listen to, Mr. Biden and Mr. Trump, and hopefully Tim Scott. Tim Scott would listen to me. South Carolina senator. He would listen to me. But he wouldn't have to retain anything I say, because he's already feeling the same way. Tim Scott would say turn down the temperature too. But he's not in the presidency right now. Trump's not Trump's not going to tell you to turn down the temperature right now. But Biden is smart, and he got me. He said, turn down the damn temperature. He didn't even use the word damn. He said, we're going to turn down the temperature, America. Now, he's done as much as anybody to turn up the temperature in the first 2 years, but I'm talking about yesterday. I'm talking about, let's be fair. What did he do well yesterday? And I listen, I haven't listened to any of the Republican pundits after his talk, because after I get done listening to the president or anybody of that nature, I can go to MSNBC and find out exactly what Trump said that was wrong when I thought he said everything was right. And if I go to Fox News after Biden gets done talking, and they're going to tell me exactly why everything he said was wrong. So I'm talking to you with a clear mindset. President Joe Biden said, turn down the temperature. And so if I'm your coach, I'm not going to go out there and tell you that Biden is doing everything wrong, because if I did, then I would not be a good coach, because President Joe Biden came out yesterday and he said, turn down the temperature. He had a calm, easy swag to himself. He clearly was comfortable because he didn't stutter. He didn't make any gaffes really to speak of. He had a few slips here and there, and I have them too. So he said, let's turn down the temperature. And when he said turn down the temperature, I'm like, he had me for a nanosecond, right? And so if he has me, that's good leadership. I'll never forget, after Bushy, I was so miserable. I was in New York, and I was working out in a fancy hotel gym. And I was there to see my good friend Jerry Vogel, who's passed along. He was a vicious Democrat, but I loved him so much, a Jewish Democrat out of New York. And I would go back and forth and see him, and I was there to see him. And I remember, I've always been a hard right person, but I remember being on the elliptical or the treadmill or something like that. And I was going to go see Jerry afterwards, and obviously I was going to have to deal with his political thoughts. And President Barack Obama came on and gave his State of the Union, his acceptance speech. And I didn't like him. I didn't want what he was throwing down and all that. But man, as a coach and a pure leadership mindset person, my dad taught me to lead. My dad, he never said, here's what leaders do. He just did it, man. He just went out and did it. And so true leaders, even, I don't care if you're righty-tighty or a lefty-loosey, man. I mean, if you're into leadership, you know what good leadership is when you see it. And I never voted for Barack Obama. I wouldn't vote for him again. But I would tell you that his State of the Union address was masterful. It was masterful. Now why am I shrouding good things around Democrats? Because they're good leaders too. They're just leading in a different direction. And I think if we're so blind not to see what a good leader does, then we can't learn from it. And so I remember his State of the Union address. It was masterful. I mean, I was in tears. I was like, okay, I don't care, whatever it's going to take to get this country back in line. I mean, you're the president. I'm called to pray for the leaders of this country. I prayed for him. I listened to him. Now, he didn't come through the way I thought he might come through. I don't think he came through for the minorities like he should have. I mean, it was a letdown in that regards. I think he went out and pandered to the world and made us look weak in that regard. He wanted to lead from behind, which is not something that he was really prescribing to so openly at the State of the Union address, but I digress. But Joe Biden, let's just talk about the things he did good. So one, he came out, he was clean, he was clear, he was precise, he was confident, he was calculated. I saw his wife sitting in the front row, and I thought she was great. She was eyeballing every reporter when they asked a question. It's like, man, you better ask him the question we gave you to ask him, and if you don't, I'm going to come over there and slap you. That's kind of how I felt about what she was doing. He did say, we're going to talk to 10 people. I've been told to call on 10 people, and he's got all his precise people. And anyway, so he said, turn down the temperature. He said with his attitude that we're calm and we're reserved and we've got a plan and we're going to stick to it. He didn't call anybody any names. And three, he had empathy for struggling people. He had empathy. He came out and he demonstrated empathy. He had me with empathy, and he had me with turn down the temperature. And here I am, a righty-tighty. All right, come on. I'm a little bit righty-tighty economically, right? And last but not least, he attacked, and these are the things he did well. He attacked the uber rich. Listen, come on, they did their homework. $400,000 a year. He came out and said, we're not going to raise they're not going to raise taxes on anybody, because if they don't have the Congress, they can't get anything done. But if he was to raise taxes, it was only going to be on the uber rich. And so he goes from $400,000, right, to billion-dollar companies that aren't paying any taxes, that will pay 15% taxes, and then he mocks that. Like, you all are paying more than 15% taxes. And that's all we're going to ask him. And then he threw in the fair share. So here we go. So fair share, uber rich, over 400,000 may be affected. He's speaking my language. I mean, honestly, that makes sense to me. Right? Good leadership moment for President Joe Biden yesterday. Good. Those are the things he did. He addressed the empathy side of things. He addressed that turned down the temperature. He addressed that the rich need to pay their fair share, which, you know, you don't want to punish the money makers, but you do want to hold them accountable. And I can't tell you that I'm off on that. I can't tell you. Everything he said was in line with a good leader, whether you agree with it or not. So let's talk about, so I'm going to give President Biden, when a president from the Democratic Party has me listen to him for almost an hour, that's almost a 5-star moment. I mean, that is a leadership moment. But then I get done and I'm done listening to him and I'm like, wait a minute. So let's get real, America. Let's turn it up on Pop Off Thursday. Let's get real. Great leadership moments, great points. Turn down a temp. Don't call any names. Empathy for the struggling. And let's tax the uber rich. Come on, America. Let's unite. Iron sharpens irons. And let's go, America. But wait. We didn't talk about some things, Mr. Biden. We're going to do all those things, but let's keep abortion real in third trimesters. Wait a minute. He didn't talk about that. Why didn't he talk about that? Because it's not popular, because it's something he wants to do that America doesn't want to do. Hey, let's keep crime. Come on, America. We're not talking about crime right now because we like it for some reason, where New York is a damn free-for-all, just like Home Depot was in Florida. If it's a free-for-all in Florida, can you imagine what the Home Depot's like in downtown New York? My goodness. I had to pull out every MMA move I had. Sean Hannity taught me on the Hannity show. Right, Sean, come on, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and give him a karate chop to the artery. I had I like Sean, but I mean, come on, the karate stuff. Home Depot was a damn free-for-all. I'm just telling you, if it's like that, literally, I couldn't get a helper, and I went and grabbed, and I went through the scanner. I literally never saw one person. I could have taken a whole cart of stuff out of there, and nobody had ever known, unless someone probably would tackle me in the driveway. Who knows? This is the part where I pop off, and I just can't quite help myself from understanding. Great job leadership yesterday, Mr. President Joe Biden. But wait, you forgot to tell us that you're keeping abortion in the third trimester. You forgot to tell us that we love crime at Home Depot in New York. You forgot to tell us that it's okay to throw somebody in the damn subway and run like a scared rabbit, right? Chad told me not to pop off too much. Chad, I can't help it. Come on now, brother. We got to understand. Keep the border. He said he didn't talk about keeping the border. Keep the abortion. Keep the crime. Hey, let's keep the border another free-for-all. Let's put our own Border Patrol people in harm's way. Let's put the people that believe it's an open border in harm's way. Let's invite human trafficking. Let's invite the drugs. Let's fight the meth. Let's invite all the crap that they're bringing across and the people that don't like America because no one else will keep them. Oh, so let's keep killing oil. He didn't talk about that. His leadership led us in a direction. He had me until I did this. What is going on? Let's double down on no oil. Let's double down on no fracking. Let's double down on no natural gas. Let's double down on no coal. Let's just have an America free of any fossil fuels whatsoever, and we'll do it all in a 24-hour period. Let's just hit go. The easy button. Easy, no fossil fuels starting right now. That's not going to work. So let's keep that, he says, but without saying it, he says, keep abortion, keep crime, keep open borders, keep killing oil. And by the way, I'll tell you what's really working in America right now is indoctrinating our children into the ways of the left and the lunacy of the left. Now, not everybody on the left is lunical, if that's such a word, but they're not. But why are we indoctrinating our children? Why are our schools going on the way they're going on? You know, I'm not a father in schools anymore. My last child just graduated from Stetson University. And I got to tell you, one of the first things she told me when she got there was, Dad, they're picking on me because I'm a Republican, because I have God and country viewpoints. I'm like, Kara, how are you going to make it through? She goes, Dad, I will not yield. I will not yield. She graduated cum laude. She's got her accountancy and her master's on her way, and she pushed it through. But my pop-off Thursday is all about this indoctrination. And all the way, let's keep that. They're voting for us. Let's keep our eyes off, keep our eyes off of keep our eyes off the Chinese alignment. We're not talking about China. We didn't even talk about, I'm drawing blank. We didn't talk about China. We didn't talk about any foreign policy. We didn't talk about anything of that reality. Just keep doing that. That's causing us problems. And last but not least, keep buying votes from taxpayers, right? Keep buying these votes from taxpayers. That's what he didn't talk about. Let's give them free education. Let's give them free this. Let's give them free that. Let's keep buying our way. You know, listen, leadership comes in all forms, and he had me yesterday. And last but not least, let's only talk about insulin as a drug that's going to be reduced with the Inflation Reduction Act. Let's only talk about that. We spent over $1 trillion to supposedly reduce inflation, and all you're giving us is a $30 insulin. Now, listen, we'll take it. But I would think for over $1 trillion, there would be more things in there than just an insulin package, Mr. President Joe Biden. You didn't talk about that yesterday. So listen, in Pop-Off Thursday's typical fashion, I want to wrap this up with leadership. I want to lead you. So I want to tell you what President Joe Biden did yesterday, and leadership was really, really strong. And that was he came out and he led. He led with confidence. He led with strength. He led with knowledge. He had answers for every question because he was prepared for them. Thank goodness, right? But he didn't turn up the temp, right? Just like my fire back here. He says, I'm purposely not going to be the president that turns up the temperature. And now, why did he say that? Because we know that President Donald Trump loves to turn up the heat. And their polls and their people and their leadership know that even a righty-tighty like Todd Saylor does not think that the heat from President Trump is a good thing. The way he makes people divisive. And even my fireplace says right there, red for heat, right? So he didn't call anybody any names. He had empathy. And that's the last thing I want to close on. Great leaders have empathy, empathy, empathy. Empathy, empathy, empathy. So I would tell you, President Joe Biden, great job yesterday. The thing that won me the most yesterday with that particular speech was your empathetic passion for America. Your well thought out ability to share with America the things that are really going to work for the Democratic Party. But you're still killing babies in their third trimester. But you still have an open border that's letting people for miles and days through unchecked, unvetted, unwarranted. It's an insurrection on the borders. But you're still indoctrinating our children into crazy wokeness, right? but you're still aligning with China in all things that are doing from a communist country, right? But you're still allowing crime to prevail and no cops and defunding the police, right? But you're still lying to us in the names of your products like Inflation Reduction Act and not actually using that for induction or for reduction in inflation. So listen, that's my pop off Thursday. President Joe Biden, you get 5 stars yesterday for leadership for your side of the equation, but you still get Pinocchios and a -1 from the Republican side of the equation on policies. America, wake up. Leadership, everything in your life rises and falls in leadership. Everything rises and falls in leadership in your life. Think about it, America. Let's get it on wire differently. Go to toddsaylor.com, click coaching, click inquire, and get on down the road. Let's have a conversation. We'll call you right back. We'll set up some time. I love America. And I love where we're heading. We just got to keep on pushing, pushing, pushing. Aggregation of marginal gains is where we're going to take this country. Don't think you're going to get it all at once, America. Piece by piece, let's get it on. toddsaylor.com.